And these Indiana Fever players are all caught up in the middle of this too. They're all having conversations they used to not have because no one cared about the WNBA. And so these guys could go play their game, and she's in the middle of all of these racial discussions that she has nothing to do with, wants nothing to do with, and then they're demonizing her fans.
You won't believe what Caitlin Clark had to go through in her rookie year. Imagine stepping onto the court for your first WNBA game, and bam, you're hit with a challenge that leaves you with a black eye.
And they got a little small 3-4 week break because of the Olympics, but it still wasn't much of a break because a lot of the discussion was about how come she ain't on the Olympic team? And now they're in this bubble. Every arena they go to is filled to the rim. There's all this conversation. It's all exhausting. They're going to give their best effort. They wanted to win that game.
That's exactly what happened to Clark, and it was just the start of her wild rookie ride. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Remember when your older sibling used to rough you up as a kid? Now imagine that, but with professional athletes gunning for you on national TV. That's what Caitlin Clark walked into every single game. The WNBA isn't just about skill, it's a physical battleground where rookies get tested to their limits. And boy, did Clark get put through the ringer. Let's talk about the Chicago Sky game. Clark wasn't just playing basketball.
She's worn out, and so are her teammates. But they get a short little break. For one straight year, everything, the weight of the world, and all these political and racial discussions centered around Caitlin Clark. And I look at last night's game and go, yeah, the play with Fag Benlay where they had her tied up and everybody just kind of walked away, I was like, oh man, they can't wait to get to Cancun.
She was in a full contact sport. Players were face guarding her 30, even 40 feet from the basket. That's not defense. That's like being followed by your own personal shadow who's trying to trip you up. But it didn't stop there. In one game, Clark got sent flying by Diamond DeShields. It was so bad, they had to upgrade it to a flagrant 1 foul after the fact. And you know what's even crazier? During a stoppage in play, Kennedy Carter decided it was the perfect time for an illegal hip check. Clark called it out for what it was. Not a basketball play. No kidding. Now, picture this. Clark's in her first playoff game, giving it her all, when suddenly, bam, she gets poked right in the eye. And guess what? No foul called. Clark ended up with a shiner that would make a boxer proud. But did she let it stop her? Not a chance. Clark's coach, Christy Sides, couldn't help but marvel at her toughness. She said, "It's tough, you know, to keep getting hammered the way she does and to not get rewarded with free throws." Really proud of her for doing that. That's an understatement if I've ever heard one. All this physicality wasn't just about bruises and black eyes. It messed with Clark's game, too.
It's like, holy cow, she's the biggest star in all of college sports. She's bigger than any college football player. She's certainly bigger than any college basketball player. So she gets that mantle in March and April of 2023. She was the biggest star in college sports. She took that mantle in March and April of 2023 with that her first tournament run.
She found herself in foul trouble early on, trying to match the intensity without going overboard. It's like trying to dance at a mosh pit without elbowing anyone. Nearly impossible. But here's the thing about Caitlin Clark. She's not just talented, she's tough as nails. Every hit, every bruise, every no call, it all just fueled her fire. She didn't just survive the physical onslaught, she adapted to it. Clark started using her quickness to avoid hits, her smarts to anticipate rough plays, and her skills to still make an impact even when she was getting knocked around. You know what's really impressive? Clark didn't just endure, she excelled. Despite all the hits and hard knocks, she kept putting up numbers, dishing out assists, and making plays that left fans and opponents alike in awe. It's like she took all that physical punishment and turned it into rocket fuel for her game. Clark might have been tough as nails on the court, but her shooting touch? That's another story. Imagine going from college superstar to struggling rookie overnight. How bad did it get? Let's just say Clark's shooting percentages would make even the most seasoned pros wince. You know those insane numbers Clark put up in college? Well, the WNBA had other plans for her score sheet. We're talking a shooting percentage of just 35% from the field and a measly 20% from three-point range. That's not just a dip, that's a full-on statistical nosedive. Think about it. In her first 5 games, Clark was averaging 17.1 points, 5.8 assists, and 4.6 rebounds. Now, that might sound decent, but let's compare it to her college stat. We're talking 31.6 points, 8.9 assists, and 7.4 rebounds on 45.5% shooting overall. The difference? It's like night and day. But here's where it gets really tough. Clark wasn't just any rookie, she was the rookie on the Fever, the only one. Can you imagine the pressure? Every eye's on you, every mistake magnified. It's like being the new kid at school, but instead of a classroom, you're in front of thousands of fans and millions watching on TV. And if that wasn't enough, the Fever's schedule was brutal. We're talking 11 games in 20 days. That's not a schedule. That's a marathon with a basketball. Most rookies are still figuring out how to tie their shoelaces. And Clark's out here playing back-to-back-to-back games against the best in the world. You'd think all this would break her, right? Well, hold on to your seats, because this is where Clark's story takes a turn. Instead of crumbling under the pressure, she did something amazing. She adapted. She evolved. She turned into a whole new player right before our eyes. Get this, Clark set a single-season rookie record for assists. Not just any record, but a league record. And if that wasn't enough, she became the first rookie in WNBA history to drop a triple-double. That's right, while her shooting was off, Clark was out there dishing dimes like a Vegas dealer on caffeine. But wait, there's more. Clark didn't just lead her team in assists. She led the entire league. We're talking about a rookie outperforming veterans who've been in the game for years. And in one game, she racked up 19 assists. That's not just good, that's video game numbers. Her coach, Christy Sides, couldn't help but be impressed. She said, "It's tough, you know, to keep getting hammered the way she does and to not get rewarded with free throws." Really proud of her for doing that. Sides didn't stop there. She knew Clark was facing a level of physicality she'd never seen before, so the team started working on ways to create space for her on the court. You'd think the court was tough enough, but wait till you hear what Clark had to deal with off the hardwood. Just when she thought she'd seen it all, the real challenges were waiting for her away from the game. Let's talk about the Pat McAfee incident. This ESPN host called Clark a white beak scrog during a discussion about her impact on the WNBA's popularity. Can you imagine? You're out there giving your all, and suddenly you're the center of a media firestorm. It's like being dunked on, but with words. McAfee apologized, sure, but the damage was done. The controversy blew up, and Clark found herself in the middle of a debate she never asked for. And get this, McAfee's still hosting his show on ESPN. Talk about awkward water cooler conversations. But wait, it gets crazier. WNBA Hall of Famer Cheryl Swoops decided to throw her hat in the ring. She made some wild claims about Clark's eligibility, saying she played 5 years at Iowa because of COVID-19. Spoiler alert, that's not true. Imagine having a WNBA legend come at you like that. Clark's probably thinking, "I thought I left the tough defense on the court." Swoops tried to make things right by leaking screenshots of her private apology to Clark. But here's the kicker. She didn't apologize to anyone else involved. Talk about a half-court shot that missed the mark. Now, let's talk Olympics. You'd think after all Clark's been through, she'd be a shoo-in for the U.S. women's basketball team, right? Wrong. When the roster came out, Clark's name was nowhere to be found. Fans were upset, analysts were scratching their heads, and Clark? She was left wondering what more she could have done. Even Dawn Staley, head coach of South Carolina and part of the Olympic selection committee, had to give Clark props. She said Clark's performance would definitely put her in the running if they picked the team again. It's like getting a gold star from the teacher, but still not making the school play. So, how did Clark handle all this drama? Like a pro, that's how. While everyone else was losing their minds, Clark kept her cool. She didn't fire back on social media or make a fuss in interviews. Nope, she let her game do the talking. Think about it. Clark's dealing with physical battles on the court, a shooting slump that would make most rookies cry, and now all this off-court nonsense. It's like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube while riding a unicycle in a hurricane. But Clark? She just kept pushing forward. You know what's really impressive? Through all of this, Clark didn't just survive, she thrived. She set records, made history, and showed everyone that she's more than just a rookie sensation. She's a force to be reckoned with, on and off the court.